Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And look, I think we can all agree that WA is a wonderful place. I thank the member for Perth for bringing the motion forward as a matter for discussion. I know he cares deeply about the community he represents, and more than that, he's working hard to advocate for Western Australia as a whole. We do need advocacy for our side of the country, especially from this side of the parliament, because in a number of key areas we're not getting it from government members. WA is a remarkable and distinctive place. As others have noted, it accounts for 42% of Australia's merchandise exports, 15% of GDP, and an incredible array of arts and cultural and sporting output, with only 11% of the population. We need and deserve funding and policy support that's specific to our circumstances. We need a fair look in when it comes to infrastructure and jobs and services, but we aren't getting it from this government. And Deputy Speaker, I've made this argument a number of times over the last few years. Unfortunately, the song remains the same. In 2016, the Coalition announced 78 road and rail projects Australia-wide. We got three out of 78. In 2017, the government announced the Regional Jobs and Investment Package, $220 million, 10 projects, and it was to help regions in Australia diversify their economies, stimulate long-term economic growth and deliver sustainable employment. How many of the 10 projects in WA? Zero, even though some of the relevant Western Australian regions had unemployment rates 3 times higher than those that were selected for funding. And Deputy Speaker, when it comes to the ABC, which this government has looked to chop at every turn, WA has taken a disproportionate hit as staff reductions across the board see jobs centralised in Sydney and Melbourne. In 1974, 8.3% of a significantly larger ABC workforce was based in WA. By 2017, it's down to barely half of that, 4.6%. No front-of-house staff, no general manager position at the time, no human resources or finance personnel, no outside broadcast van anymore, which has to come across the Nullarbor for special occasions. Altogether, that is a pretty bleak list of disappointments, but I want to touch on 2 further issues that have the potential to cast a long shadow over WA's economic and jobs outlook. The first is defence shipbuilding. In 2018, the WA Liberals took out full-page ads in the West Australian newspaper saying that WA would be one of 2 defence shipbuilding hubs. The ads said the work split would be 50-50 between WA and South Australia, but that is not the reality. The reality so far, Deputy Speaker, is we are getting $3.5 billion out of an $89 billion shipbuilding spend. That is less than 4%. The opportunity to deliver a serious shipbuilding hub in WA now rests, as the member for Perth has said, on the question of whether the full-cycle docking of the Collins submarines is moved to the Australian Marine Complex in my electorate of Fremantle. It makes sense to do so. It's in the national interest. It will ensure we have greater and more diversified infrastructure and workforce capability, but we wait to see if the government keeps its promise or whether it will once again give WA the short end of the stick. I do remember, actually, Deputy Speaker, seeing that the member for Moore is here, that the member for Moore almost 12 months ago, in a moment of brutal clarity, said that one of his motivations for supporting the end of Malcolm Turnbull was the fact that WA was getting such a poor deal on defence shipbuilding, but I'm not too sure, member for Moore, that has changed in the 12 months since then. Deputy Speaker, the NBN story for Western Australia is even more disappointing because in many ways the damage has been done. We have received the worst allocation of broadband technology under the disastrous multi-technology mix of all of the states. We have nearly half as much again of the 19th century copper line rubbish as the other states in the form of fibre to the node. As a result, no surprise, we're bottom of the pile when it comes to broadband performance. The ACCC's Measuring Broadband Australia report says we have the worst broadband of any state, the highest proportion of underperforming broadband services, the slowest average busy hour download speeds. In WA, more than 1 in 7 households or businesses will not meet the national benchmark of 50 megabits per second. In New South Wales, it's fewer than 1 in 10. More than 1 in 7 for us, for New South Wales, fewer than 1 in 10. That is a serious digital divide in the largest and most remote state, when jobs are centralised elsewhere and where people in WA are constantly told to get things done through a call centre or a website, yet we are lumped with much worse broadband than the big East Coast cities. Deputy Speaker, how does it occur? How do we get such a disappointing list of bleak, short-changed, rough end of the pineapple, you name it? How does it happen? As with everything else I've mentioned, it occurs because the Liberals take WA for granted. They have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to parliamentary representation, but they're not embarrassed and if they can get away with delivering very little for the West, they
Thank
will.
the member.